Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Lifeonaire Show podcast, where we help overworked business owners reclaim the things that are most important, regain their life, not at the expense of business success, however. I am joined by Polish Peter, my co-host. Bro, we got an awesome episode today, bro.
Yeah, I'm excited for him, man. Dan the man, right?
Dan the man, that's it. That's it. So we got Dan Albhorn on. He's a longtime friend, Lifeonaire. He was in the first Titanium coaching group that I was a member of way back in the day. And he has a really cool story, man, just transformation of overcoming limiting beliefs, of he mentioned, getting out of his own way and winning against himself. And it's a very, very impactful and tactical episode.
Yeah, he talked about identity too, and his whole identity, how you rewired his brain. So if you're listening to this particular podcast and you feel like stuck, or you feel like things are not moving like you would like it to, or you're stuck in the business, or you're spending a crap load of hours on things that you don't want to do, this might be a really good conversation to listen to, because he shares some tidbits that helped him tremendously to create a business and life that really works for him, not the other way around.
Totally, man. Moving across the country, having a kick butt business, rocking out family life, health, all of it. Here's our interview with Dan Albhorn. Dan, what's up, man? Awesome to see you again. Welcome to Lifeonaire Show.
Hey, bro. I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm so glad to be with you guys today.
Dude, you're awesome. I was, before we started recording, I was telling Peter how we had recently caught up and you're living in Florida now. I knew you back in the day when you had first joined Lifeonaire. You were living in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Life looked different, looked a lot different for you, man. What was it like for you back then? And what are some of the changes you've started making to get you to where you are today? But the reason I'm asking these things, by the way, is because I want to paint a picture for people of hey, it doesn't matter where you start, what you struggle with, what the challenges are. But I want to give people some not only some tactical advice, but also some inspiration from the things you've done. And by the way, if you haven't noticed yet from just a brief moment that Dan has been speaking, Dan is the voice of the Lifeonaire book audiobook.
Yes.
Dude, yeah. You have a face for radio.
I was telling to Peter, I put people to sleep every night when you're trying to fall asleep and you're listening to the book. You get to hear my subtle voice say, "Go to sleep." Yeah.
Well, all dude, right. Start off for me. How did you even find Lifeonaire?
So Lifeonaire for me was, I think Steve. Yeah, Steve had come initially to the Appleton RIA, and Jackie Conklin, you guys know, obviously, is a active participant in that. And I just saw her life a little bit different. And then Steve came and just shared his message, and it really resonated with me. And the first time he came, I didn't do anything, right? I didn't take action. And that was the season in my life that I wasn't a real big action taker, right? Steve came back through the second time, I got to do this get a life thing. And I said to my wife, I said, I don't know how we're going to do this. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. I think we may have even gotten spiffed a ticket. I don't know. Regardless, my wife and I took the time off. We went to, I think we flew somewhere because it wasn't in Wisconsin, and it was transformational. We went through the workbook and the breaks. We went into our room and just really took the time necessary to think about, what is our life going to be? Are we playing with the Joneses, or are we creating the Albhorn life, right? And the life was ultimately what I wanted it to be, not what society was telling me to be. I saw the value of having quality time with my kids. I wanted to build my business because I still hadn't figured that out yet, because that was kind of really the focus. But the truth be told, I really wanted to have a better quality of life with the relationships and the experiences with amazing humans, just like you guys, right? I mean, I love it that, Wojo, we've not connected in quite some time, and that's okay. But dude, it's like we never stop talking to one another. We are just lifelong friends. We could meet up. We're going to try to meet up, but we're having a hard time getting schedules. But it's we could get together and we'd probably sit and talk for hours. And even when we were on the phone, I think we could have talked longer. But that's the beauty of the relationship, of having those type of cherished relationships. And that's where really was the precipice. And I was all in. So I went all in. Yeah. From there, I kind of joined the T1, which I was in the group with you guys and Steve and the gang back in the day. But I'll be honest, I was way over my skis. Like you guys were like some high performers. Like I jumped.
Talking about Vojo, he was a high performer.
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. Well, he's got all the MD and stuff at his name back then too. Here's Wojo coming in the room. He claims authority. But no, it was like I saw these guys with Stansberry and I think Steve and Kavanaugh, and just all these guys are just amazing dudes, like doing awesome things. Steve had just moved down to Florida at that point in time, right? And he was building his life. And man, like how awesome would that be? But my mind wasn't right then to really see myself. Like I liked the idea of it. I just couldn't put my place in because I had some self-limiting beliefs. So that was a great experience, but I felt very intimidated because for whatever reason, maybe it was my sales job because I got vetted by, I think, Sean at the time. And like, hey, dude, here's the deal. You want to be in? Had some money. I'm like, let's go. And that's pretty much all the money I had. But I'm like, I got to get in this room. I got to be in this room. And I learned so much from it. So that was kind of my intro to Lifeonaire.
Dude, so I'm so interested in hearing this, man, because like when we were in this group together, and what would you say is different when you say you had some limiting beliefs and you were in a different place? Like, convey that for us. Like, paint a picture.
That
What was
was
that
a
like?
season of my life, and since then I've destroyed them. But really, that was the limiting beliefs of why I wasn't even having success in my business. Like I saw the Lifeonaire, I was all in, as you mentioned. I recorded the book Steve had asked me, and I was flattered. I took the time and did it, and that was such an amazing experience. I love doing that. That's just I came with a radio background. It just was in my space and what God designed me to do. But I just couldn't see myself as being successful. My family didn't come from money. No one really had given me any type of anything to really to base it. It's all based upon me, and I would only get so far, guys, and then I would just stop. Like the things I know I needed to do to the heart, and you guys are shaking hands because it. Like you got to kind of push past that because the why is big enough. And perhaps my why wasn't really there until I had some splats, right? I had some splats, but they weren't serious enough. And there was 2 of them that really were pivotal that refocused my life. And then now be able to allow me to scale my business, right? So that's kind of the points that I was at. And a lot of it was just, I think, historical from my family of just the limiting beliefs they had that I inherited. And some of it was just life experiences of I'd have an adversity and I'd be like, oh, I'm just not going to be successful. And I would get down on myself, man. I would be like weeks, sometimes months in some pretty, I wouldn't say depression, but probably pretty close. I never went clinically, but I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting on the couch twiddling my thumbs when I should be active.
Got it. So tell me, man. So I think as you're talking, I feel like a lot of people, when they hear that, are going to resonate with this. They're like, something's holding me back. I wasn't taught, these things. I have these beliefs. I've inherited these kind of like outlooks and views on life. And I'm just never gonna be successful. Like, was it a sudden, you mentioned these 2 events in particular.
Yeah.
What do you think those were like the big cracks in the wall, or was it like a very sequential, like one tiny little step forward at a time? Like if you're able to look back and recreate that.
That's a great question. I think there was small fissures, right, that I could see, but with anything with pain, we either we have to eventually deal with it, but a lot of times we push it away, right? We don't want to get to the root of the issue. So we'll cover it with a variety of things. Some could be drug, alcohol, sex, could be just casual things like, games and like social media. We fill our life with some things. It could be even work. Like it could be work. So I guess I was just not wanting to deal with it. So the first crack in that wall, or maybe the big smack, was me almost losing my home to foreclosure, right? I had a point in time, and this was post Lifeonaire, right? So, I was trying to live life, and I was having a pretty good life. My relationship with my wife was good. My kids were good. I was trying to live that life, but I didn't have the finance behind it because I had these self-limiting beliefs. So, it was a call that I had to deal with. And if it wasn't for a good friend of mine where I had no other options, and I called him like, hey, bro, I don't know what to do. And he's like, how much you need? Without even asking another question. And he's like, I'll wire it to you tomorrow. And like, he paid the $5,000 to get me out of my situation. And at that point, I said, I'm never going to be like that again. So that was kind of the first splat, right? That I'm like, okay, I started realizing stuff. I started building out a business because to that point in real estate, truthfully, I was treating it like a hobby. Yeah. I had a 9 to 5 for a period of time at the JOB. I was kind of doing this, but it wasn't, neither of them were serving me. I wasn't taking it serious. So at that point, it got serious, right? So that was kind of the first crack. The second one was where I was in business with some good partners, and things were going pretty well. And then they'd come to me. Went back. They were at a similar event like Lifeonaire and had a mentor come to them and said, "What's your vision say?" And their vision's like, "We don't want to be in the single family flipping business anymore." So we had it was a good conversation. They're still great friends to this day. That's an amazing thing when you work with people and you set up a business properly. You don't have to have a yucky exit. And they're like, "Dan, we love you. We just don't love the business." And I got it. But why that hit me hard is they're doing multifamily stuff. They're doing some pretty cool things. This was my cash cow. Like, I wasn't that diversified. I'm still kind of living deal to deal, but making some good money, right? So they had brought me in because I'm good at the sales. I'm good in the acquisition side, but I wasn't great on the back end system stuff. Like, that's just not me. So I made a decision at that point in time. Like, they're like, "This takes 6 months, 8 months, Dan, whatever time you need." They were so gracious to me, and I love these guys to bits. But I'm like, "Nope, this needs to happen immediately." Because I knew the longer that this lingered, it was not going to benefit either of us. So we kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. And then through that, where the real shift happened, I think the big kind of dam breaking and the new Dan comes into play was I went to a Tony Robbins event. And I knew all the truths that were kind of built in the Lifeonaire and what I wanted. I just wasn't living it. Kind of almost imposter syndrome a little bit. Here's a guy that reads the freaking book and he's not living Lifeonaire, right? But I'm just being real with you guys, and I'm sure you appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I realized going to that event that I had some self-limiting beliefs. I didn't feel like I deserved wealth. I didn't believe I was a real estate investor. I didn't believe I was a good father, all of which were so lies, I would dare say, from the devil, right? Trying to keep me down. And you guys, both being men of faith, understand that. So I had to rewire my brain. And if you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event, go. It's life-changing, and just go there and play all out, because it's 4 days of intense. I mean, it makes the 3-day getaway like it's on steroids, and the 3 days impactful. So you put those two together, you will become a completely different human being. So I went there and I rewired those statements and ultimately said, "No, I am a guy that deserves wealth, and I'm going to take care of it and treat people well. I'm a deal maker in real estate." I rewrote these I am statements in my life, and that in conjunction with the whole thing with the business, in 8 months, I was able to generate $500,000 by myself in real estate. Guys, I'd never done that before, ever in my life. So those two things, with the basis that I already knew, and then finally the brain stuff, because it was all head knowledge. It wasn't really stuff that I had applied together. That was impactful and transformed my life.
So what I'm hearing, man, is like you already had, like, it sounds like, the abilities and the information, the knowledge, the skills, but you were in your own way. Like,
in spades, brother, in both ways. I had all of that. And in the opposite side of it, like, I had so many things holding me back. Yes.
Wow, man. So tell me, like, when you make this realization, like the light bulb finally goes off, tell me some of the things that you changed immediately about the way you ran your business, the way you showed up for life. Like, even, and, I know the move somewhere to Florida is going to be a part of that too.
Yeah, man. Intentionality. So I had to look at my calendar. All right, how am I spending my time? If I'm really, okay, the cool thing is, what I learned a lot in those 3 years I was in partnership with my friends is I saw how a business should be run, because we were running a profitable business. We all made pretty good money. It just wasn't serving their vision. And you guys have this discussion with students all the time. Like, it's a great business, but if it's not serving your vision, why are you doing it? Right. So they had that epiphany. They were able to move out. I wanted this to serve me. So I started treating, I've quit real estate so many times mentally. I've finally come to peace with real estate and seeing it as a tool and a vehicle. I don't have to love it, but I can treat it like a business, and it'll do well for me. It'll treat me well, right? So I got really intentional with systems, processes, mentorship. Well, Joe, that was the other thing, is I found a good mentor of where I wanted to be. And I teamed up with that person, and they helped me facilitate that. And I had good traction already. So we went from doing, maybe a deal a month to 2 to 3 deals a month by, the end of year, generating a healthy revenue. We had, I think shortly after that, $100,000 a month, in the beginning of 24. So, it's a lot of great things had happened. And then I just realized like I was in a zone. Like I had my calendar blocked. And then you guys talk so much importantly about time blocking. Like these are my money making times and how I'm going to be effective with it. But also putting healthy buffers in there that I'm not cannibalizing my personal stuff. Making sure there's time for Dan, making sure there's time for Diana, who's my wife. My kids now are all moved out. I guess maybe making time for the dog if he's in here. Yeah, there's Midas over there. But right now, that's my world. You know, and moving down here was another part of that because it really allowed me to even live life more intentionally of getting my health in order because I hadn't been great with that. So in the last 6 to 8 months, I've transformed my health of being a guy that was somewhat fit and flabby, of being in the best shape of my life and having unbelievable energy and just a passion and a zeal for life that I've never had before.
Man, this is wild, dude. I'm so like, this is, such a great illustration of like what can happen when you're firing on all cylinders. And you're you're working on a book now too.
Yeah, the book's done. Actually, I just wrote the book. It was a God thing, man. It's like I was sitting on the lanai here in Florida, and I'm so blessed. I mean, I'm not saying that to brag, but it's just God has been so gracious to me. But he just said, Dan, you're gonna write a book. And I'm like, okay, God. He's like, no, you're gonna write a book right now. And I'm like sitting outside on my patio. It's like 3 PM, and I just started voice memoing all the stories of my life of things that I thought could be important. And within a little over a month's time frame, I put together this book called Flipping My Identity, which is kind of my autobiography of just what I went through as a child and some of the struggles I faced and how I maybe formed some of these limiting identities. And then talks about the journey I just shared with you, Wojo, of like my foreclosure situation, the situation with my partners, how I even moved to Florida. That's a whole story in and of itself coming here. That was not an easy task, but we're here. And we're loving it. So I think, yeah, it was a healthy thing to do. It was also going through that process, even just a few months ago. It was there were still some things I hadn't dealt with yet. So I had to kind of go through that path and get real with myself because I wrote the book and it was so surface level. It's like, no, you need to go deeper, Dan. Even my wife's like, no, this is too fluffy. Like you got to get the raw deets. So you're going to see the book is raw and genuine as it is. And it's been received well. So yeah, we're in the process of maybe doing some formatting changes with it. I'm just self-publishing it today, but yeah, it's there. And yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, super excited for you. So do you have any like words of wisdom? Like you've gone through this incredible transformation, this journey that, had certainly some smaller moments of transformation combined with some really big transformations. Like, what are some of the bigger lessons that we could convey to the audience or people who are listening that they can maybe use to reflect on their own life and where they are currently and where they want to be?
Well, I think it starts with introspection. You have to know who you are to your core. God has designed each one of us uniquely and given us all gifts and opportunities to do things on a great level. And you have to get real with yourself. Like, what are you here for? And I know that's a life lesson thing, right? But I think what we don't do is we don't take time to get serious about the 3-day is an amazing opportunity to do that. Like you can really be intentional with figuring life out, right? But if you're not doing that, even on a regular basis, like I'm almost like patting my brain. I'm constantly thinking about that, like optimization and how can I become better on X, Y, and Z, where my brain was never wired like that before. But I'm at such peace now because I think God wants me to do this. God wants me to teach. God wants me to be able to help other people grow. And I feel like I'm in that zone. Like I'm in such a great zone right now. It doesn't mean that life doesn't come at me. It doesn't mean I don't have problems, challenges. Absolutely. When we're in a business, that's the byproduct of that. But I think if you don't get real with yourself and get introspective and in that regard, I think that's where people struggle. They never take the time necessary to figure themselves out. It's not an easy process, but if you do it intentionally and really do something like an event like this or Tony Robbins or whatever, you're going to get clarity in your life. And that is that why piece that we talk so much about, that it becomes rock solid and it's a must do, can't fail. And nothing's going to prevent you from reaching that. And then you do things like I just did.
Yeah. Dude, I love what you're sharing here because that totally speaks to me. I mean,
Mhm.
like your story, like, that oh crap moments, like I've had something similar in that regard. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that. So listen, one of the things I want to ask you is because I've coached a bunch of students, and one of the things that they
Mhm.
bring up is this, about, and it's a process. And it takes a while, and I have to think about
Mhm.
it and whatever it might be. And one of the things that I'm hearing from you is like having a strong why will get you going like nobody's business, and the intensity, the way you even sharing it, right? Like, this is my why, and nobody's going to stop me, right?
Mhm.
Nobody's going to stop me getting in the way of that.
Absolutely.
That old identity and the new identity. It's not an easy process to go, but talk to the people on this call if if it's possible for them to be able to go and transform an identity in a quicker way, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think it starts with, like I said, taking that time with yourself and really asking yourself, how is life going to be different 6 months from now if you do nothing? In many cases, it's going to be substantially worse, not better. Your relationships aren't going to improve. Your finances are not going to improve. So when people come to you like, I want to think about it's a process. Well, why? You have to start. There's a starting point for every person somewhere. We all had that moment in our lives. And for some, it's more radical than others. I'm sharing my story here today. I'm speaking with passion, but you're right, Peter. Like, nothing's going to stop me because it's me against me. I'm not
That
competing with
right
anyone
there,
else.
what you just said, I think is gold.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah,
me
yeah.
against
Me against
me. Like,
me.
I don't care what Wojo's doing. I don't care what Polish Peter's doing. I don't care whoever's doing around me in my room or in my group in Lifeonaire that I know you have these people. It's your world. What's your plan? What's your vision? That's it. And it's
Yeah.
getting better each day. And that is the process. You may see some huge wins here and there, but it's incrementally how can you improve? And then the other thing I'd say too, Peter, is give yourself grace. Because as you're creating these, because what I did is I rewired my brain. The old Dan was one that didn't take action,
Mhm.
was the guy that was passive, was maybe putting on a front. The new Dan is what you get is what you see. I'm authentic. I'm just real. I'm not trying to be anyone else but myself. So as you're going through this pattern, you're going to have some things. You'll step back, give yourself some grace, get back on the horse, and focus on that goal. And that's why having a concrete why, not just a why, but something that is so truly uniquely you that no one's going to stop you. Nothing. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Actually, there's a good mentor of mine that's talking about all the crap in the world today. It's like, put the blinders on. How can you change that? You cannot. You can change your situation today with whatever's going on. We're an amazing nation. There's so many opportunities ahead of us. Come from an abundance mindset. So, yeah, that's what I would
I love
share, I
that.
guess.
So
Yeah.
listen, one more question. How do you do
Yeah.
the hard things? How do you do the hard things? Because I think that's what the people
Yeah.
have problems with, right? Stepping out of the comfort zone, doing the hard things. How you do that?
I've created, so I'm a big thing of I am statements. And I've rewired my brain. I do hard stuff. Matter of fact, today I went to the gym. So I was just going through a cleanse, and I typically fast on Thursdays. I didn't think about those two things back to back. So I went to the gym today, and my coach pushes me. Like, it's a group setting. It's a healthy, I'm so blessed because it's literally 5 minutes from my house. And in Florida, nothing's 5 minutes from anything. Like, it's 30, 50 minutes everywhere here. That's one thing I don't like about this. But outside of that, I'll take paradise. But so what I was saying is that it was tough. And before I even got started, Peter, I said, I do hard things. That is my identity. I formed that I'm going to do tough things. Life is going to happen for me, not to me. I didn't create that statement. I don't even know who said it, but that's my mantra. So when things happen, I try to see it. Okay, well, that sucked. But I don't sit there. I don't marinate in it. I realize I try to get out of that state as quickly as humanly possible and be like, okay, how can I overcome this? How is this an opportunity for me to grow? Whether it be a discussion with your wife or a fight with a loved one or just a business thing. Okay, that happened. How do we overcome this and make sure it doesn't happen again and constantly improve and not be afraid of that life's going to happen and we just deal with it.
Dude, it sounds like the only way you can fail when it's you against you is you not doing the things you know that are in alignment with who you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
You
gap
got it.
between like,
Yeah.
hey, I know I'm this person and I'm not showing up as this person. Like, that's the only way you can fail.
Correct.
You know, You know what? I think this is my own personal belief, and I don't know what you
Mm.
think about this, Dan, but
Yeah.
that old identity that you talked about,
Mhm.
it's not your true identity. It's something the world put
Yes.
on you, and you start to agree to
Yes.
it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's me. That's who I am. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Brother, amen to that. And that's exactly that I'm trying to convey to people now. It's like your true identity is in there. This is who I am meant to be. That was never the Dan I was meant to be. It may have been the labels that people have put on me or life was put before me, but I chose to write the story of who God created me to be. And that has given me such passion and zeal to live out my life that nothing's going to stop me. I want to be around people that I want to be around. I want to create a life for me. And that's why my business right now is just about to explode. I mean, just some of the things we're doing right now is absolutely amazing. And it's not because I necessarily want to create more wealth. There's some of that, but it's just I feel like I can impact more people. And that's what's driving me, right? And the healthy balance I'm trying to deal with right now, and just being transparent, is like, okay, I'm in a season where I'm putting a lot of time, energy, effort. I'm working more than I would probably like. I'm putting 40 to 50, 60-hour weeks in. I get that. But I'm also being intentional with bringing people on to help make sure I have an assistant now, and things like that are helping balance my life. That is, even on bringing new things on, I'm also removing things from my plate and outsourcing things. So that's the season of life I'm trying to be very self-aware of, that, hey, I can blow this thing up real quick because I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. But I also want to be cognizant it's not at the I'm not taking away the things that matter to me most, which is relationships and experiences, right? And a real quick story. I had a good friend of mine today reach out to me. He had posted something online. It was a passage of the 23 Psalm. And powerful, right? I'm very familiar with, many people are familiar with that. And I say, hey, bro, thanks for sharing that. I love that passage. And he's like, yeah, my wife's in hospice. I'm like,
Oh,
and I thought about it for a second, and here's where it really hit me. This guy, same age as me, his kids, similar situation, are all off living their life out of the home. And he's, I'm like, a shy shade of 50. And I'm like, bro, like, that's me. Like, he's a real estate investor trying to build his business. And I literally, truthfully, most of this day, I've been just very somber. But then I thought about perspective. I'm like, it's such a blessing that I can have a business that, if I so chose, and he doesn't need me to, but if I wanted to jump on a plane and go to Texas right now and say, hey, Wojo, bro, I can't make it today, dude. Like, I know you guys would get it, but I have the opportunity to do that. And that's why this business is so powerful. And that's why living your life on your terms is transformational. That when life comes at you like that, in those moments in life, you have the ability to do it. And it was just humbling that I even said to my assistant today, I'm like, let's make sure as we build this company that the culture, which is super healthy, that we never lose that. As we grow, as a team grows, as we get money and increase in value, we will never lose that as a company. And if you see me slipping, you have every right to call me out on it. And she's like, gotcha. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that story because it just gave me some real perspective today of just the value of living this type of life.
it's real life.
Got
Yeah.
it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude. Well, Dan, you're awesome, bro. Love, love, love. I'm so happy for you. Like, I just love what you've
Yeah.
done, man. And like,
That's
it's
awesome.
so,
Thank you, brother.
I'm
Appreciate
so,
it.
dude, it's awesome. Like, so where do people find the book if they want to check out the book?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go online, they can follow me on Instagram. It's at @HouseBuyerDan. There's actually a link in my bio. If you want to download the book, you can check it out. Follow me on the socials. I got a free group on Facebook. If you want to know about lifestyle and mindset and real estate, you can just ping me, friend me. I'll get you in there. Yeah, I'm looking here to serve, quite honestly. So that's my heart.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for your time for being on the show.
Thanks, guys. Love it. Love catching up.
Dude, I love having people on the episodes, on the show, and hearing about these success stories. Bro, it literally lights me up. Like, I am so excited for him. And Dan's not, of course, we have a lot of success stories around Lifeonaire, but like, I'm just reminded, and Dan's just an awesome guy, so it couldn't have happened to a better person. And like, it's so funny how sometimes the smallest things can move the biggest rocks in our lives, our business. And he talked about like these limiting beliefs, like, and and what he said is like, he kind of inherited these beliefs like from his family, and he was brought up with them, and they were the exact thing holding him back from the success that like he desired and he knew he was capable of.
Yeah, and you talked about this old identity versus the new identity, who really is, right? Who talks about who God created him to be. And I truly believe that, man. I think what ends up happening for a lot of people is that when you're little, we start to agree with a whole bunch of different things that the world, the parents, whoever it might be that tells us, and we inherit, like we take on this quote unquote identity. We think that's who we truly are. And I think and then for the majority of our life, we kind of like living that kind of a, not trying to deal with it. And one of the things that he said that was very important, he goes, I had to go and look at myself, like really look at who I am. And most of us, I think, ignore it or don't know about it, or we literally are afraid to actually look at it, right? And I think that's what helped him to figure out what are my limiting beliefs. And then we talk about what's the new ones, the I am statements that he started creating and creating the new identity and keep moving into that direction. I think that's huge, man.
Well, dude, the other thing I think is like you hit it right in the head is like we go through life, like I almost think of it as like walking through the woods and picking up, breadcrumbs. And those breadcrumbs those breadcrumbs represent pieces of our identity that we just start to form based on other people's opinions, or maybe something happens and we pick up something from an experience, and all of a sudden we have this image of ourselves that seems like it's a reality based on what we want and what we believe about ourselves. But the truth is it's really an external reflection of how others have seen us and how we, have reacted versus, intentionally focus on becoming the person we want to be. And so like, this is where, he mentioned going to the Get a Life Getaway. He called it the 3-day because back in the day, this was the only event Lifeonaire had. We didn't have a Lifeonaire.
It's called a 3-day too.
Yeah, we didn't have a business builder workshop. So the 3-day became the jargon for that. But like he's talking about the Get a Life Getaway, where like it takes some time and it does take some effort to unpack that stuff for yourself. Like what are really the beliefs I have about myself, and what are the ones that have helped me and what are the ones that have held me back? Like, how do I view these things? We do a session during the Get a Life where you lead this, where we're talking about these beliefs, and like, it's such an empowering thing to really see that for yourself and understand that from a new perspective and see it if there's any misalignment.
Yeah, I will tell you this, like those of you listening, if you're listening to this particular podcast, ask yourself this question. If things are not working in my life, whether it's my life or business or whatever it might be, or they're not working as well as I would like them to work, there's probably limiting belief there. There's probably something that's stopping you. So start looking in that direction. What is it about it, right? And start digging in there. And that's what he had to do. That's what he went through. And then intentionally, remember, he talked about, you ask him, that's like tips. Give us some tips. First thing popped out of his mouth, intentionality. Be intentional. Be intentional with the calendar. Be intentional with your life. Be intentional with your conversation in your head, and he started being intentional about that. And I started rewiring it that way. And I truly believe it's not so much like he's completely like, he's looking at life completely different because he rewired those parts of I am, I do hard things. He said that at one point, right? I do hard things. And most people are not willing to do that. And what ends up happening when you have that strong why, notice, like, if you haven't watched this episode on the video, go check out towards the halfway through the podcast when he talks about his why, his entire face and everything. He's like, just, this is my why. Nobody's going to stop me. Nobody's going to take it away from me. I'm just going to go all the way and make things happen. And when you have those ingredients in place, dude, you can accomplish so many different things. I think anybody can.
Yep. Love it. Well, listen, hope you guys got something out of the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you see this as a reflection of honestly what's possible for you too. I don't care what life looks like for you right now, what circumstances you find yourself in, what conditions, like you can make an improvement. You can move in the direction of your dreams. And yeah, maybe it's one step at a time, or maybe it's a big step, whatever that looks like for you. The underlying lesson here is like, you just got to move in that direction. You just can't stay where you're at and expect a different result. And so if you like the episode, please give it a thumbs up or share it with somebody who you know needs to hear this and impact someone else's life. We will see you next week, everyone. Take care.